The inner world of parenting. This is something that you all can relate as parents, maybe as children as well. There's a beautiful inner world that we are all set to explore right now in this conversation, and we have two stellar people joining us as well for this, who bring alongside themselves a lot of experience in that space as when it comes to being good parents. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be first calling up on stage our moderator for the session. To moderate this session, I'd like to call upon stage Tarandeep Singh Sekhon, Chief Business Officer, KidZania, India. A big round of applause for Mr. Tarandeep Singh Sekhon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final session. We want to ensure that the energy remains at an all-time high, so let's continue the momentum throughout. My first speaker to join me for the session, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolutely evergreen lady in the true sense of the term. Clap it up for Jankee Mehta, vocalist and co-founder, the Indian Parent Pod. Thank you so much, Miss Mehta, for joining us. What a pleasure. Thank you. And to join Miss Mehta on stage, I'm going to be calling up. Can we reduce the music a little bit? You know, every time I see him, I want to refer to him as an older brother, but he just refuses to age. That is the kind of charisma that he brings to the table. Please, ladies and gentlemen, the warmest round of appreciation for the one and only Nakuul Mehta. This is going to be a stellar conversation on the inner world of parenting. Tarandeep ji is going to be leading the conversation with Jankee and Nakuul. And we're all set. Can we update the timer, please? And let's get going.
Thank you, Shubho, for the wonderful introductions. A very good evening to all of you. My name is Tarandeep. I head growth at KidZania. And let me tell you, one thing which we try to do at KidZania is trying to decode one simple thing. That is how kids think, and second is how parents decide. And what we've learned over all these years, that you cannot understand the child unless you understand the parent first. And for that, we have this session planned, and I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to have these two amazing people who are not just incredibly accomplished in their own professional journeys, but they've also been what I feel and what I know from what they've been posting and the discussion which we had, very real and honest parents. They have a platform, the Indian Parent Pod, where they've been documenting their parenting journey, which a lot of parents relate to. A quick disclaimer, I'm not a parent myself, but I'm blessed. I have best friends who've allowed me to have a bhatija who is my godson. And what I've seen with them, and also with many of my close friends who have toddlers to tweens, that parenting today is absolutely not what parenting used to be. What works yesterday doesn't work today. What works an hour ago may not work now. And there is a constant dilemma with parents. There is guilt. There is always an expectation. Am I doing right? Am I doing enough? Should I be doing more? So all that is something which we will try to decode with these two gentlemen. Before I hand the stage to them, quickly a raise of hands. Who has seen the movie Inside Out? Okay, it's my favorite movie. Inside Out is all about going through the inner workings of the girl child. And I am delighted we'll do an Inside Out, the parent edition. Okay, and these are our lead actors and parents. So let's start with the movie. So chapter 1, Dhurandhar Sahil. Let's focus on the reality, ground reality of parenting today. So my first question, let's start with you, Jankee. I have colleagues who are mothers. And without naming them, you know, one colleague of mine was telling me and showing me the schedule of a child. It's planned meticulously with school, classes, activity A, activity B, activity C. And it made me wonder, you know, whether you all are in a good way raising a child, or is it planning a calendar? So what's your thoughts about this parent view?
So I feel that this happens all the time, right? You know, since the time we've started the Indian Parent Pod, we've actually met a lot of parents. You know, parents our sons' parents from school, you know, and a lot of parents we have interacted. And I've realized one thing, that of course there's a lot of structure to the day of the child. But the structure, before the structure, what really comes is intention. I feel like today's parents really want to do a lot more, you know. If you compare it to our time, हमारे time पे इतना नहीं होता था, but today our parents really want to be more present. They want to be more emotionally involved, you know, in the child's journey. And they're doing all of this while kind of managing busy lives, you know, busy schedules. They are running a home, nuclear homes, running businesses. So I feel that all of that, when you're trying to parent with all of that, some sort of structure is kind of required. And I am personally a very big fan of structure. Like, I feel structure in a child's life really brings a sense of discipline. It brings predictability. It brings rhythm. You know, they feel safe when there is a structure. But I think what you're talking is when we are designing the day, when we are filling the calendar so much that the structure becomes so tight that there's no room for spontaneity, right? When there is no room to do anything else. So I really feel like there should be moments in a day, you know, when you just have space for the child, a lot of unstructured time, you know, for him to just do nothing. Because I feel those times are so important, because boredom leads to a lot of imagination. You know, boredom leads to a lot of creativity. Doing nothing is extremely important. So, yes, there is structure. But I think one question that we need to ask ourselves is, even while we are designing the entire day in this extremely, you know, extremely busy day and busy lives, is that structure really replacing connection? You know, are we still connecting with our child whilst having that structure? Because connection is very important. If we don't connect, you know, if we don't be present, overstructuring can lead to a lot of not being present in the moment, especially for the parent, you know. So overstructuring also kind of leads to, I mean, you can't just be easy with the child. Everything is going as per plan. So yes, it does happen. So we kind of keep bringing, you know, coming back to the point that, are we still spending that time with him? You know, are we still being present while we are there?
Interesting. Nakul, your thoughts on, again, you know, there is a very fine line between how structured can it be versus, you know, keeping it natural. And again, I'm just coming from the oversight that, you know, is it robbing the kid away from their natural living? So what's your take on it?
Sorry, can I quickly, someone can jump in and just ask the sound to slightly lessen? There's a lot of sound of, my mind can only like listen to that right now. Someone can take care of that. But
House to the right.
yeah, just where all the pantry is and the kitchen work is happening. Thanks, Anand. That's a very pressing question of our times, right? I wanted to first just get a sense of what our audience is. How many parents do we have here? Okay, a few. Okay, which is great. I'm sure all of us have had some interaction with children around families, neighborhood, right? So in that sense, I think it's a problem which affects all of us. I feel today's parents, right? The context is different. Parenting in today's time is you're over-informed, but underconfident. You're always comparing yourself with somebody else who's taken 5 classes and is doing 5 different things. I feel we have to really firstly figure out that, am I doing what I'm doing for my child because that needs to be done for them to be in the race? And I don't know what this race is, but hypothetically the race starts when the child is born. Admission apne admission ke liye apply kiya. Like, I remember 5 months into our first kid was born, and a lot of chatter was about, did you apply, find the school where you want to apply to? And both Jankee and I were like, no, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how to feed him yet. We'll get there when the age is correct. And let not that pressure affect us, right? But I think today, in a lot of cases, both parents are working. You may not have that much time, and I get it that you might want your child to be productive at that time and learn some skills. I get that fear. But again, we have to figure out, are we doing this out of intention of this is right for my child? Because every child is different. But filling up the entire time, if your child is under 6 or 7 or 8, I don't know if that works. It's a very city mentality. But childhood is meant for free play. Childhood is not meant to be curated, right? And I think a lot of us have had the privilege of growing up like that, where we were bored and our parents didn't like necessarily entertain us. Today as parents, even us, we feel sometimes pressurized. How do I entertain my child? And then we remind ourselves we don't have to entertain the child. We need to let them engage with the real world. And I think as city dwellers, we have sometimes in today's generation forgotten that art, that my child needs to just be able to interact with the world. Can I find a way to get him to a park close to my house? I know you're living in Bombay, the options are very limited. It's not Delhi or Chandigarh. But let the child do daily things. Agar ghar par hai, can he help around in the kitchen? Agar sabzi kat rahi hai, can you let the child be around? Or think, no, this is an adult's job. Child's job is to go to a class and learn chess or learn mathematics, right? I think it's how you look at that part of parenting. So you're right, we're trying to be productive for our kids. Kids don't need us, or need them to be, that age is not meant for them to be productive. That age is meant for them to be able to engage with the real world. So yeah, there's a lot of credence in the fact that we need to unburden their childhood with what we think will help them.
Very interesting observation, which is, parents are constantly trying to do parenting, whether it is out of fear or whether it is natural. So chapter 2, which we have here, is, of course, getting into the emotional side of decision makings for parents. And this primarily stems from all the what ifs. Again, you've experienced it as parents, but there is a lot of comparison which happens. What if my child does not go for that class? What if he fails in this? So how do you tackle this with your parenting style? I know there is no right or wrong answers here. About dealing with parenting without the fear of failure. If you could even give some anecdotes, it would be great.
I think most of the parenting today happens not depending on what the child needs. A lot of that happens on the feed, on our phones. That's how we are parenting today. When you open your phone and you're just scrolling and watching, you see so many brands, you see so many people, you see, parenting is public today. It is very visible. It's happening on the screens. It's happening through reels. So I feel that everybody is watching, everybody is parenting. And then you're seeing that ये बच्चा ये class भी कर रहा है, इधर भी जा रहा है, उधर भी, he's learning something else, he's learning a new skill. Oh, he has this product. Maybe this can work better for my child. I need to get this. And even the brands, I feel, like there are so much of this, this ecosystem around us that is helping us supporting parenting, but quietly also telling us that, you can do better as a parent. You need to get this for your child. Your child needs this. So I feel that there are so many voices, and the interesting part about this is that all voices are so definitive. They are so certain that you need this. They are so clear, right? That ye karna zaruri hai, ye karna. And you will have 10 voices that are completely contradictory also. On the same subject, you will have different opinions. So as a parent, now when you're parenting, and especially if you're a first-time parent, there is a lot of doubt. You kind of forget that you also have an instinct, and you stop trusting yourself, and you actually start trusting, you want to seek this outside external validation from some reel or some expert or, So, I feel that a lot of parenting is kind of dependent today on a lot of these external voices. And I think the only way to, look, if you really want to shift this is to depend less on outside answers and, just focus more on what your child actually needs. and look at your child differently. You know, does my child actually need this, or am I just consuming this because I saw this reel, or iske bete ne ye kiya? Because today the comparison is no more with Sharma ji ka beta, right? The comparison is with thousands of kids online. So it is a challenge.
Again, just to dig deep with that, Nakul, so one is, of course, versus what the child needs vis-a-vis the other children. But also there are cases where, it is what the child needs versus what is convenient more for the parent. So how does, one go about that decision making? I know it's, again, not easy.
No, it's a very valid question, yeah. I think a lot of times our parenting decisions, if I was to be very honest, also come from the fact that what kind of parents we want to be seen as. And it may not be a conscious choice, but like you're buying eco-friendly, sustainable clothes, or you're buying, all these learning tools. There are a lot of these games which today are educational toys, etc. Because you also, in some way, want to signal to yourself that you are a conscious parent, right? And brands are using that to their advantage. They're not selling to the child's joy or child's benefit. They are actually selling to the parent's anxiety, right? Which is a great business gap for a brand. But I think it's really like going back to, I think a lot, like anyone who's a parent here, I'm assuming would possibly want, like, would you agree you would want a slow childhood for your offspring? Yeah, would you want a slow childhood? Yeah. Having said that, we still enroll them in multiple classes, we give them access to screens. So whilst the parents, all of us are well-intentioned, and same with us, right? You end up like over-scheduling them. I feel because there is so much dopamine in parenting today, and there's so much, which is the world, right? So parenting doesn't exist away from the world we're in, right? And it is a crazy world we're living in, where the most powerful man in the world is giving threats on Twitter every day. It's a crazy world we're living in. I can't even imagine what kind of kids he must have brought up, right? We're living in that world. Those are our examples. Those become that echo chamber of noise where the louder you shout, louder you speak, is seen as power, eventually becomes the norm, right? You're trying to raise a child in that world. I'm not trying to be a cynic here, but I'm also trying to say, like, hey, the world has so much to offer and so much to sell to you. Can we just go back to be able to listen to what our internal rhythm is? Okay, if you want a slow childhood for your child, what does that mean? Is my child an outdoor child? Can I find ways for them to engage with the world? If my child is into art, can I find ways for that art to happen in everyday life? It's a tough one, because all of us are also going through our life, our careers. You want to be well-intentioned, and in all of that, you're scheduling all of this for your child. It's hard. A lot of times, like a lot of elder, like the generation before us would say, like, इतनी मुश्किल तो नहीं है parenting. हमने भी की है. तुम दोनों अच्छे ठीक-ठाक पैदा हो गए, ठीक-ठाक बन गए हो. The context of the world was slightly different. It wasn't an information overdose. For most of our parents, I think the fact that we were fed, we were safe, and got education was a lot. I don't think we'd be okay with just that much today, right? There's so much more. I think, so sometimes just to go back and borrow a little bit from there, where of course you want to be well-intentioned, you don't want to, be an authoritarian with your child, or you don't want your child to be fearful of you, but you also want your child to be able to blossom in a pace which is their own. And we'll only be able to understand a pace which is their own if we let the child be, right? Like, give them that space and not overschedule them.
That's a very valid tip, if I can say it. And one point, Nakul, which you brought about, that today parents have information like more than ever. And that leads us to the next chapter, which is about trust crisis and the business of guilt with parents. There is information all across. There are multiple parenting sites, and there is all-powerful AI. I've seen parents, checking for anything and everything there. But what I've seen, still they are unsure about their decisions. And what would be your take? What can they do probably in a much better way, where they are more grounded and more realistic of their decisions, and not just being enamored by all the information which is being fed from left, right, and center. So give examples. So one parent tells us do A, the other is opposite of B. So there is information everywhere. But how does a parent again start trusting their own instinct?
You know, parenting, so all the voices that you spoke about, like how I said, there are so many voices online and everybody is so certain and definitive that you feel yehi right hai, nahi yehi right hai, nahi yehi right hai. So what happens to my voice, right? But the thing is, parenting doesn't come from with that certainty. Every child is different. Parenting in every house is different. Your value system is different. Your child is so unique. So I feel it's a parenting loop. How do you undo this? You need to really build self-confidence and trust in your own voice that, let me listen to myself. And how does that happen? That happens when you really spend some time with your thoughts and your child and learn to trust. And for learning to trust, you need to really, okay, this is the problem. Let me try and, apply this. I will observe my child. Okay, this is not working. I'll adjust. I'll then learn. You need to spend that time. And it's only then when you will build confidence as a parent to trust your own voice. Otherwise, you'll constantly keep trusting the other voices around you. So, yeah.
Taran, it's been a year and a half we've been building the Indian Parent Pod. And this came from the need that we've been parents for 5 years now. And there is so much voice and noise on the internet which will tell you can do this and you can do that. And at some point you do feel judged and you do feel like, oh my God, am I doing this wrong? Am I doing this right? And there are so much confusion. But we realize that no one is talking about parenting is a lot about feelings. It's not about getting this right and getting that wrong, right? I think the most important part of parenting is as partners, can you be aligned? Because when the real parenting kicks in, when career comes, decisions come, that's when this gets hard, man. And no one spoke to you about that. None of the books talk about that, right? And Jankee and I wanted to make a sacred space with the parent pod where we spoke about feelings, what it takes to raise a child, what it takes when you have differing opinions. And we do have differing opinions. Our values are aligned, right? Our whole goal was parenting can be a very lonely journey, right? A lot of times, like when you meet someone outside, you're like, yeah, it's a lot of joy, bada maza aata hai. There are days which are overwhelmingly hard. It is tough. If you want to be an involved parent, it is very hard. Can you then, at that point, not make it harder for the other parents by judging them or, making fear-mongering content that if you didn't do this, it's going to spoil their future. So Jankee and I wanted to talk about feelings, wanted to talk about what our failures have been, what our eureka moments have been, and that's where the Indian Parent Pod came. And what we didn't even realize was, in a lot of ways, the idea was not to build a content business, was to be able to build trust that everything we speak about, we will commit to, right? So the beauty is, because we are parents, a lot of it you can apply. And there are so many times we fail and we tell each other, we spoke about it, but we are not able to implement it, right? So we started this journey of the Indian Parent Pod by wanting to commit to show up better. You can't be perfect parents, that's not the idea. But we want to be parents who are consistent. And I feel that being consistent in your decisions, in your rules, and how you show up with kindness and love for your child is far more important than having it all sorted. No one's going to have it all sorted. But can I be a consistent parent when the child's going through a meltdown, is having a hard time with feelings, is a hard time coming and sharing with you? Can they trust you that my parents would be regulated? Because children are not. But when the child goes through a hard time, are you also reacting to that hard time? Because it can get hard. It's not easy. Can you at that point come in as the adult who is regulated, right? That's where we started. And it comes from building trust. It's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah. Being a parent, you all would know it's so hard. And we always keep saying this, that we're not parenting experts. We're not experts. We are just a couple trying to, figure life and trying to live with intention, but we are as confused and figuring it out like most of us, you know.
I think, after listening to both of you, I think there is a lot of A/B testing, marketers would resonate with on parenting. But I really liked the part, Jankee, where you are also trying to tell parents, that you have to try, keep doing things consistently, but you'll have to build that trust, and your own instinct eventuality with how you want to raise your children. I know it's not easy, easier said than done, but I will switch to the last part.
I'm sorry, I'm going to come in just in between. I feel when I spoke about consistency in parenting, and I feel because this is the India Kids Summit, and I think for a marketer, like my takeaway is for a brand who's building in this space, whilst you're eventually building for the child, and the child has to find joy in what you're building. Like, take the example of KidZania, right? The child loves coming here. But you're essentially selling to the parent. And you're selling to the parent the fact it's going to be educational. We will keep your children safe. It will be consistent and they'll be taken care of. I think this is a beautiful example of brand building the correct way. Because you're selling to the child, to the parent, that this is going to take care of your child. And the child has joy here. A lot of times, I think, building in this space happens with fear mongering. Oh, you're not doing this right. ज़्यादा protein नहीं खिला रहे हो बच्चे को. वो school में नहीं भेज रहे, उस class में नहीं भेज रहे, AI coding नहीं सीखी है. I feel in today's day and age, like brands also need to move on from that conversation. Can I make the parent not feel judged for what they're not doing? But can I make them feel validated that I'm giving them a space or a product where their child will be, will be taken care of, will be secure, will also be fed. I can see there's some decent food here. But most importantly, the value would be correct. And I feel like KidZania, the fact that you guys have been here for 12 years now, 13 in India, is testament to that. And anybody building in this space, I feel, has to just take a leaf out of how you guys do it so beautifully.
Thank you so much. And also, I'd like to share, we have about 100 role play experiences here. And many a times when we work with brands to create these unique experiences for them, our challenge has never been the attention of time required by a child. Otherwise, that is a persistent problem today. Everybody's saying the attention span is diminishing. But here, when we see them involved in a role play, they are donning that uniform, they are donning that role. 20 minutes, 25 minutes is never an issue. So that's what we internally call it time compression. Because the child just loses a sense of time when they come to KidZania. And I mean this, I'm not doing a plug-in. Of course, I love KidZania, I love this brand. But likewise, these kind of experiential, real-world role plays and other experiences allow the child to go and live a real life.
What I take away from this also is, I think this sometimes doesn't happen in our houses because when the child is trying to explore, as parents, you also have an instinct of saying, "Isse aise mat karna, aise karna. Arey wo ganda ho jayega." Or a grandparent coming and trying to help the child. What is beautiful here is the child is left to their own imagination device to be able to explore. Can we replicate that at our homes? And that's all you have to do in parenting, right? Just give autonomy to the child and let them then fly with it.
So last week there was one parent, I just briefly interacted with him, and we have a window cleaning role play. Bacha window clean kar raha hai, parent kar raha hai, bol raha hai, very good, very good. Now this is the way you have to clean the dinner table. So that's it. So coming back, I know we are short on time. The last chapter, the climax, and the big word, screens. So now screens is something I think all parents are struggling with. Okay, and so quick question. What is your take
I don't
on
think
it?
parents are struggling. Adults are also struggling
Yeah.
with it. All of us.
Absolutely, there's doom scrolling.
What is the average time everyone uses their phone here? Is anyone uses it under an hour? I want to acknowledge that person if that exists. We're struggling with it, man.
Yeah.
If we are struggling with it, we have some level of maturity, education, life experience. Think what it does to a child's mind. And my heart was sinking when I was listening to the panel before this, where we make our childs believe that they're bringing joy to people, but we are robbing them away. Because when the next question was asked, what do you want to do in the year? you know, a lot of them said 1 million followers. I don't know how to feel as a parent about that. Are we raising children who are constantly being judged, validated, living on comments, and that is your source of joy? Then the screen scares me, right? But we have to also, I feel, Taran, really understand that it is the reality of their times. And let's not demonize it saying कि यार ये नहीं कर सकते, हम 6 घंटे यूज करते हैं कि हमारा तो काम है ना? I feel, firstly, what we, Jankee and I try to do is, we try to model, of course you need the phone, but try not to use the phone when you're with them. Because a lot of times, and we're guilty of it, you know, Sufi's talking to us, I'm like, yeah, haan, ho jayega, kar lenge. He's looking at you, and he's going to do exactly the same thing. So before we say, is it healthy or not, I think it's really like, can we firstly internalize that kind of behavior with ourselves? And if we can, I think screens for kids, for them, it is their reality. You have to understand, if we can be well-intentioned about it, as parents, we can decide to choose what to expose them to, right? Do I want them to see a lot of stimulation, content, a lot of loud colors? Or also it can be like great lessons, stories, folklore of India, which we may not be in a position to share like our grandparents did. I think how we show them, or when we choose to show them, is how you can make screen your ally.
Yeah, I think like screens are here to stay, so we can't run away from it. We cannot, right? Like we consciously as parents, we try and not be on the phone, but ho jata hai, and it's a reality, and all of us are guilty of that. And so the number one is, of course, kids pick up from us. So if we want them not to have watch screens, then we need to model that. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. But I really feel that more than screen time, what is more important is the unconscious consumption of content. You know, a lot of times we just put on the TV और अब देखो जो देखना है, पर क्या देख रहे हैं वो लोग, you know. It's so important for them to make, for us as parents to be aware what they're watching, to watch the stuff with them, because they are learning language. They are getting all sorts of these crazy questions, and their kind of world is shaping up in their head because of the stuff that they are watching. The tone with which they speak, everything comes from what they watch, you know. And talking about overstimulation, of course, what we try and do is try and make him watch some sort of calming shows. So there are, what is it, like Trash Truck and Bluey. But he also watches like a Paw Patrol, which is overstimulating, right? It is stimulating. So you also need to see what is that the stimulating show doing actually to your child, you know. A lot of times their behavior changes when they watch a show, you know. How are they reacting at home? You know, how are they responding? How are they talking? Are they going on this loop of, you know, of like, is there aggression? Everything comes from what they are watching. So I think you need to be aware of all of this. So unconscious consumption of screens is way more, you know, concerning than just having some screen time. Yeah.
So screens and content, of course, they go hand in hand. And again, my observation, I was with a friend, has a 3-year-old, and she wanted to watch Tom and Jerry. She loves it. And I was shocked when the parents' immediate reaction was no. So I again have no right or wrong answer. I was just relating to, it was my favorite show. But now it's okay.
Same.
The parents think it's too aggressive. There is too much of action. So again, no answers, but that's it from our end. But जैसे बोलते picture अभी बाकी है, so we'll do 2 end credits, like any Marvel movie, not just 1 end credit. So the first end credit is the KidZania parents talk. We, you know, of course, spoke to a few parents at KidZania. What question they would like to ask each one of you.
Oh, lovely.
And we'll do 4 quick questions, short answers because we're running out of time. So first one out to you, Jankee. What do you do when your child wants something that you know is not right for them, but all his friends are doing it?
I tell him that they could be doing it, but these are the rules at home, and this is how we work at home. This is our home rule. Everybody has different rules in different homes, and this is our rule at home. So hold the boundary. Hold the boundary as much as you can.
Hold the boundary with love, but yeah, constantly repeated with love.
Ground rules, hold the boundary, love. Perfect. Nakul, on days when you've had a long work day and your child just wants your time, how do you deal with that guilt? You've had a bad day, long day.
Actually, that's my greatest antidote to having a bad day. Like, everything stops because there is no judgment. There is no sense of what, they are so present in the moment, and as adults, we are always thinking about the future or the past or what I didn't do or what I should do. When you spend time with a young child, yours or anybody's, I feel that they're so present, they're so there, that it helps you center yourself up. So honestly, it's the greatest antidote to having like a terrible day.
And they also easily forgive. If you just say sorry to them, they'll forgive,
Yeah, no ego, just like they forgive and forget in a minute, which is beautiful.
So Jankee, how do you say no to your child without feeling like being the bad parent?
I know you really want it, but we don't do it. You can't get this today. I know you really want screen time today. I understand. I know how you're feeling, but we're still not going to watch it. That's it. That's it. Hold the boundary with love. Hold the boundary with love. But keep giving that love, because the kids should, I feel like they need to know that you are their safe space. If you constantly react from fear, if you constantly react from kind of shaming them, punishing them, bola tha nahi karna hai, kyun kiya, ye, wo, they're not going to come to you. They're not going to open to you, for the bigger things in life. So keep making them feel loved. I know you really want it, and I understand. Validate their emotions. I know how you're feeling. I know it's hard, but we have to still wait for 2 more days. It is just that.
Okay, the last one, I think it's my favorite. So, Nakul, who's the stricter parent at home? And does your child already know how to play the two of you?
Yes, he does know. Every child knows.
I think it depends on the day. So Jankee and I have an unsaid understanding where we know that somebody, like if somebody is holding boundary with love, the other one shows up with a lot of love, right? So in the adult world, you call it good cop, bad cop, but I don't think we'd like to use those words. But at all times, one of the parents has to be like all embracing, and it has to happen seamlessly. You can't decide, yeah. While growing up in a lot of our homes, I think the fathers were the figures with authority. I think with the generation today, fathers are far more softer.
No, I think
Thankfully
he,
so.
he gives in way more easily than me. So if he can't get something out of me, he'll go to him.
Yeah.
So that's actually the correct answer. So let's go to end credits 2. Okay, end credits 2. So quick one, just short answers. One parenting myth you don't believe in.
That doing more in parenting is doing better. It's not.
Nakul,
We'll take alternate one, so we'll make it fast.
one rule at home that's non-negotiable.
We talk to each other with respect.
One thing every parent should do more of. More of.
Every parent should do more. Just be with your child. Spend time with your child without interruptions. Listen to them.
I think, thank you so much. We tried to do an inside out with Jankee and Nakul. I hope, thank you lovely audience. I hope you also had a good time. They may be here for some time, but otherwise please follow them on their channels. You can get more of the parenting gyan and tips. And to keep your kids away from screens, intended pun, please bring them to KidZania. Trust me, they'll be away from screens. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Taran. Thank you.
Thank you.
So beautifully
Thank you. This was
moderated. Thank you.
On stage, thank you so much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be calling upon stage Mr. Siddharth Laik, founder and editor-in-chief, IWMBuzz Media Network, to please kindly come up on stage and give the token of appreciation. Once again, a big round of applause to Mr. Siddharth Laik, the brainchild behind India Kids Summit Season 7. Thank you so much. Every year, the team of IWMBuzz, they keep working hard to make the IP bigger, stronger and better. and it actually achieves that in the best way. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nakuul and Jankee, as well, for sharing your thoughts. Always a pleasure. We have a lot of giveaways to be done. Thank you so much. We're done with the giveaways. It's gonna be absolutely gross injustice if we don't do a nice group photograph. Kudos to them. Thank you so much, the absolute powerhouses of India Kids Summit. Can I have a huge round of applause for all of them, please, ladies and gentlemen, to sum things up at India Kids Summit Season 7. Couldn't have been a better way to conclude the event on a very special and high note.